ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ranna. In this Friday's Atma Vichara session, we have been reading Bhagavan's Upadesham and meditating on it by His grace. We have been reading His Upadesham from the book Ramana Answers, Self-Enquiry, 1900 to 1950, a compilation of all the questions put to Bhagavan on the subject matter of Atma Vichara, self-enquiry, between 1900 to 1950, and Bhagavan's answers for the same. This wonderful compilation has been done by our founder president, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. And we are looking at the question answers put to Bhagavan between 1936 to 1950. And in that, today we will be looking at the 104th question. Then after reading out the question and answer and meditating on it, we will have a 20 minutes Atma Vichara session. Following that, we will have today Nandakumarji talk about Atma Vichara, and then finally we will have the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. The question today is how to control the mind. Maharshi says, mind is intangible. In fact, it does not exist. The surest way of control is to seek it. Then its activities cease. Further, Bhagavan goes on to say, seek the mind. On being sought, it will disappear. The mind is only a bundle of thoughts. The thoughts arise because there is the thinker. The thinker is the ego. The ego, if sought, will vanish automatically. The ego and the mind are the same. The ego is the root thought from which all other thoughts arise. Dive within. You are now aware that the mind rises from within. So sink within and seek. You need not eliminate the wrong I. How can I eliminate itself? All that you need to do is to find out its origin and abide there. Your efforts can extend only thus far. Then the beyond will take care of itself. You are helpless there. No effort can reach it. I repeat Bhagavan's answer to the question how to control the mind. Mind is intangible. In fact, it does not exist. The surest way of control is to seek it. Then its activities cease. Seek the mind. On being sought, it will disappear. The mind is only a bundle of thoughts. The thoughts arise because there is the thinker. The thinker is the ego. The ego, if sought, will vanish automatically. The ego and the mind are the same. The ego is the root thought from which all other thoughts arise. Dive within. You are now aware that the mind arises from within. So sink within and seek. You need not eliminate the wrong I. How can I eliminate itself? All that you need to do is to find out its origin and abide there. Your efforts can extend only thus far. Then the beyond will take care of itself. You are helpless there. No effort can reach it. The mind, which is something we all feel very strongly present, we all at times we get exhausted by its continuous movement, which Bhagavan calls it as thought after a thought. Yes. To that, when we go and ask the master how to control it, his first and direct answer is that there is no such thing called the mind. That is the truth. If something exists, it should exist at all times. And we know that in deep sleep, we are not seeking this remedy. We are not looking for this remedy of how to control the mind or even why I don't have any thoughts. As much as in the waking we think I have so many thoughts, I don't even have a thought that I don't have any thoughts in the sleep. Therefore, this mind, if it is real, if it has to be at all times, we know that it doesn't exist. That is the true remedy. Once I know something is not there, I don't go looking about it. Bhagavan often gives the example that we don't go looking for the horns on a hare, on a rabbit, because we know that it doesn't have it. We are so clear, so well registered about that fact. But that is not how we feel here. When we see that the mind is there, when we are still attending to the thoughts, and we are attending as an individual, then we feel that the mind is there. And that is why we say we want to know how to control it. But when the Bhagavan is saying it doesn't exist, if we were to understand factually it is not there, therefore I need not worry about it, then the matter is at rest. But we cannot have that faith. We are not the origin, we are not the self to which all of this appear and disappear. We have assumed ourselves to be this individual. And Bhagavan here, in a series of connection, when he says, okay, if you have accepted the mind, then seek the mind, he says. In the first paragraph, he outright says there is no such thing called a mind. And when you know that, that is the best way to control it. Because there is nothing to be controlled. Therefore, seek it. But if we are not ready to have that faith and take the Bhagavan's words, or even if our experience has been so, that there is a state in the sleep where we don't have the mind, and that I was there to know that, and therefore I am here and now something which transcends the mind. Therefore, I have the choice to attend to it or not attend to it. And there is also this reality that whatever, even if I attended all of the mind's thought in the waking, in the sleep, I was least bothered by all of it. Or I was least bothered of the absence of the mind also in the sleep. Therefore, to me, there is nothing as such called a mind. I could take that and be as I am. But if I am not able to do, I'm still attending to I will still feel there is a mind and I need to do it, then Bhagavan says, seek the mind. Now he continues to say, once you seek it, you will know that there is something which is beyond the mind, that is what you are. And he goes on to connect. The mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. All thoughts appear because there is a thinker. The thinker is nothing but the ego. The ego and the mind are nothing but one and the same. And the ego and the mind appears because of the first thought, the foremost thought called the I thought. Now, how can the I thought kill itself? Only by inquiring its source, because we recognize this I rises from within me. He says the mind rises within you. Now that you have taken the mind to be real and you know that it is rising from within you, the thoughts are rising from within you. If you seek its source, if you seek its origin, then and there it will, when you abide in that origin, when you recognize the origin and remain in the origin, only thus far our effort can go. If you are taking the mind to be real, and mind is nothing but a thought, bundle of thoughts. Thought is because of the thinker. The thinker is the ego. And the ego and all of it is because of the first and the foremost thought called the I. Now the I thought can do only one thing: seek its origin. It cannot eliminate itself. And that much is what the effort maker, the thinker, the ego can do. Find the origin from where he rises and abide there, be there. Then Bhagavan says, the beyond will take care of itself. That truth which here and now, like as we saw in the sleep, it always was present even when there was no thought. That pure self, the beyond, will take care of itself. Because everything has emerged from it, and when the attention goes back to the origin, then the beyond will absorb everything and the beyond alone will remain. There is no more effort and there is nothing that one can do, says Bhagavan. And that is the whole journey of this Atma Vichara, to recognize that truth, that unchanging substratum, which is always present and which we have taken it for granted, even though it is the direct experience, because we are experiencing ourselves at all time. Though our awareness is what we are, our existence is what we are, but instead of attending to it, we are attending to the thoughts, we are attending to the I, the origin, the division, and then from there all other divisions, and then we go on to control. There is a continuous streams of divisions that are rising. So Bhagavan brings us back the attention to whom is all of this appearing. And when we actually get back to that unchanging truth and abide there effortlessly, because that's until there the seeking needs the effort. But once we reach the origin, it becomes effortless because there is no effort maker. In that, everything is taken over by the origin, says Bhagavan here. And thus far is our effort that we can do, if at all we are trying to put an effort. But Bhagavan is trying to give that natural solution also in the first paragraph. He's saying us to recognize that there was a time, there is always some experience that we are having where there was no mind. And there is nobody seeking for its control, nor seeking for its absence. There was a truth, an origin, which was aware, yet it accepted whatever, whether the thoughts were there, it was there and it accepted. Whether the thoughts were completely absent, that is, the mind was completely absent, it accepted. That is the natural state, the state where we are okay in any which way things are happening, because we are untouched by any of it. Bhagavan is asking us to recognize that natural state of ours and remain as it. And once we remain as it is, then that beyond, that which is natural, will take care of itself. Then there is no effort to control or not to control, to do something or not to do something. And there lies the freedom, complete freedom of doing or not doing. There lies that natural state, as I said, where one is not worried about to do or not to do, one to control or not to control. It is natural. And only when we seek the origin and recognize that natural state, or that sahaja sthiti, that how the beyond is, there lies the remedy, there lies the truth. And Bhagavan is asking us to get there. And how else is it possible? Always says, Bhagavan says, the goal and the path has to be the same. So the path, whenever a thought rises, because the substratum, because the truth which is the substratum also exists along with the thought. He asks us to diligently inquire, to whom is this thought? Who am I? And turn our attention from the thought to the substratum. So the goal to remain as the substratum is also made as the path by Bhagavan with the enquiry. The enquiry brings the attention which was outward turned onto itself, onto the source itself. And with repeated practice, Bhagavan assures that all the mind becomes pure, all the tendencies, all the idea and concept that there is something apart and which is all imaginary, as Bhagavan says here, we recognize it, and we recognize there is always that substratum, that truth alone which is. And by repeated practice, Bhagavan assures the mind becomes pure and abides at its source. And from there, the beyond takes care of itself. With the abundant grace of Bhagavan, with which alone we have come to this most direct path for the next 20 minutes, no matter how many thoughts come, whatever may be the nature of those thoughts, we should diligently inquire, to whom is this, who am I? Because we are attending to something which is very imaginary. And by only inquiring to whom is this, who am I, we turn the attention to the substratum, the truth, the unchanging, ever-present, the unaffected truth. And by repeatedly turning to it, Bhagavan assures that the mind will gain enough strength to remain in that state of effortlessness. It is abundant grace. For the next 20 minutes, let us practice Atma Vichara. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Morna, over to Nandakumarji. Morna, sir.
Namo Ramana, sir. Namo Ramana. For our meditation in this final part of Friday Satsang, I have taken up the heart of Ulladu Narpadu according to Lakshman Sharmaji. These verses 24 I'm sorry, verses 27, 28, 29. These verses are considered as the heart of your Ulladu Narpadu. Let's go through as much as possible. Before this, there is the segment of problem definition 23, 24, 25, 26. These verses, very interestingly, reduce the problem of all living and non-living beings, not only humanity, to one. And strangely enough, the problem is also within us. The solution is also within us. Now, understanding that the problem is also within us is a tremendous relief, because we seem to be buffeted by so many problems on the outside, and each having different degree of importance, that we are tossed and pulled in many directions. Whereas Bhagavan says, all those, the problems and apparent solutions on the outside, they arise, karuvam ahandai undai anaithum undahum. Ahandai inrel indranaithum. Ahandaiye yavuma adalal yadidendru nadale ovudal yavum. It is real renunciation to seek the source of the ego. Then the three verses 27, 28, 29, which Lakshman Sharmaji says is the heart of the work, and addresses this problem, this root problem, relentlessly. In 27, Bhagavan says, Nanudiya dullanilai, Namaduvai ullanilai, Nanudikkum Tanamadai Nadamal, Nanudiya Tannilappai Sarvadevan, Saramal, Tan Aduvam, Tannilayil, Nirpadevan, Satre. And Kanakamal, the devotee that she is, says that Bhagavan has captured the essence of all spirituality, and especially the Vedanta Sara, in the first line of the 27th verse. Nanudiya dulla nilai, namaduvai ulla nilai. Nanudiya dulla nilai is sadhana, and namaduvai ulla nilai is siddhate, is realization. The state or the hridayam in which the I does not arise is the very place where we are that. We are the self of all is the first verse, first line. And to realize that, to remove the ego that is veiling this jnanam, what one has to do? Nanudikkum stanamadai nadu. From where does this I arise? Seek that. Without seeking the source of the I, can you destroy it? Can you come to the point where the ego is completely effaced? You cannot. So you have to seek the place from where the ego arises. And without effacing the ego, without erasing the ego, can you abide without completely removing the rising ego? Can you abide in the Atma Swarupa? No. That is the verse. So, Nanudiyadulla nilai, Namaduvayulla nilai gives us the panorama, the whole teachings of spirituality at one go, and the general direction in which the solution is to be sought is laid out in the next two lines as to Nanudikkum Tanamadai Nadamal, without seeking the source of the I. Nanudiya Tannirappai Sarvadavan. Can anybody seek the destruction of the ego where the I does not arise? And without destruction of the ego, can one abide in the Nirmala Atma? Not possible. Is the 27th verse. 28th verse is எழும்பும் அகந்தை எழுமிடத்தை நீரில் விழுந்த பொருள் காண வேண்டி முழுகுதல் போல் கூர்ந்த மதியால் பேச்சு மூச்சடக்கிக் கொண்டுள்ளே ஆழ்ந்தறிய வேண்டும் அறி. Here, how one has to dive into the subconscious is described. We are floating in the subconscious without diving at all when we are totally identified with this sthula sharira. Or let us say, even with the energy or emotional content of the breath, we are right at the very superfluous parts of the subconscious. And the subconscious is an ocean, is a samudra. And the pearl lies at the place where the samudra itself ends, or at the bottom of the samudra, the pearl be the self-luminous self. How to get that pearl? Bhagavan says, just as one searches for a precious item that has fallen into deep waters, how will we do that? We will close our mouth, stop all speaking, and if you don't hold your breath, you are going to be in trouble. So, how to dive into the subconscious? One has to stop the sensory activities. One can't be superfluous as well as deep at the same time. The Sahaja Nishtha will keep it for later. The Sahaja Nishtha, where the Atma Swarupa is realized to be our very nature, and the small the interactions or the actions in the sensory area cannot disturb that nature, is Sahaja Nishtha. But in practice, while practicing Atma Uchara, the diving deep into the subconscious has to be done by letting go of attachment to the sensory area. And the verses 8 to 22 give us a sense of what are these contents in the deep subconscious. As you dive deep into the ocean of subconscious, what are those areas we are going to cross? All the dualities and triads, the dyads and triads, we are going to cross. We are going to cross ignorance and jnana. We are going to cross the first person, second person, third person. We are going to cross past, present, future. See the I, when you hold the I and see from where the I arises, what all thoughts you are going to cross? You are going to cross the whole of time. You are going to cross the whole of time and space. And where is time and place present? They are present in the Sukshma, in our subconscious. And because we don't dive deep within, beyond the time and space, we get caught in time and space. But in Atma Vichara, what we do? When we dive deep, what is all that we are going to cross? An indication is given in the verses 8 to 22. We are going to cross first person, second person, third person, past, present, future, time and place, then vidhi madhi, fate and free will. the free will or our mind seems to have this much within its control, and everything else seems to be fate oppressing us. But then when you are diving deep, holding the eye, there comes a point in that deep sea where the fate and free will are merely thoughts. And in that deep sea, the eye crosses both fate and free will in their Sukshma Swarupa. The free will in its Sthula Swarupa, the free will appears so puny compared to the fate which appears so vast. But as you dive deep into the subconscious, both free will as well as fate, the oppressive, compulsive forces that seem to be pushing and compelling us on the outside, they are crossed in the Sukshma because they are also a thought. We were fighting between controllable thought and uncontrollable thought. And what did Dileep say? Doesn't matter what kind of thought it is, just keep leaving it and holding the eye. So whether it is the controllable, so-called controllable free will or so-called uncontrollable fate, doesn't matter. Just let it go and hold the Atma Swarupa, and both of them fall away. And the darshan of God is also only holding the I thought and diving deep, says Bhagavan in verses 19, 20, 21 and 22. The Isha Darshanam is delineated, practically showing us what are all the contents in the subconscious you are going to cross and come to the Atma Swarupa. That is why in this verse, பேச்சு மூச்சடக்கி கொண்டுள்ளே ஆழ்ந்து அறிய வேண்டும் அறி பிணம் போல் தீர்ந்துடலம் நானென்று வாயால் நவிலாது உள்ளாழ் மனத்தால் நானென்றெங்குந்துமென நாடுதலே ஞான நெறி அன்றி நாம் இது அன்று நாம் அது என்று உன்னல் உன்ன துணையாம் அது விசாரமா is the question that Bhagavan asks in the 29th verse. That is, without uttering the word I with the mouth, we should understand that whenever we are uttering any words, we are uttering the word I implicitly. That's why Bhagavan says, any sentence uttered, whether it contains the subjective I explicitly or not, the subjective I is hidden there. The ego is hidden. I say it is a fine city. I say it is a fine city. That I say is hidden. I feel, I know, all these are hidden. We don't mention it in the sentence, but always the ego is hidden. So whenever we are speaking anything, suppose I am speaking, then all this time I am uttering the I am this body through the mouth all the time. Nanendru vayal navilad. This why we should also take as the mental why, the thought-based why. Whenever you are thinking any thought, then the I am this I thought also comes up. Or I am the subtle identity that I have as father, as mother, as a good citizen, as a bad citizen, or whatever that we have. Some post that the government has given us, some post that our work center has given us. All these are mental identities. And how much ever sentences we may form in the mind, the I thought is hidden. Therefore, nanendru vayal naviladu means we should neither take any sentences through the mouth or through the mind. உள்ளாழ் மனத்தால் நானென்றெங்குந்துமென நாடுதலே. So even if you don't take the mind there, the mind has to be crossed in this part. That நானென்று வாயால் நவிலாது உள்ளாழ் மனத்தால், in that mind, in that I which dives deep, நானென்றெங்குந்துமென நாடுதலே. Where does this I arise? So that means you are not to be content with following some thoughts. When thoughts come, you should let them go and have only one point of search That is, from where does this I arise? Nanenrengundumana nadadale jnananeri. That is the real jnana marga. Anri. Anri the nan. No, I am not this. Nan adu endru. I am that Brahman. Endrunnal tunayam. To meditate like that, Soham Bhavana or Aham Brahmasmi is an aid to Atma Vichara. But can you call it as real Vicharam? Unna Tunayam Adu Vicharama. That is the question Bhagavan says. That go for the direct Vichara. And one secret we will discover when we are applying this Bhagavan's teachings. Bhagavan says, Andridhanam. If you analyze that, it is not only for shifting from limited to unlimited that we use that. This is the mental becoming. For practically everything, we use this. When we are discontented with what is happening today, we say, Andridhanam. I am not this. Tomorrow I will become a better Nandakumar. Namaduvendre. Let me become better Nandakumar. I will be happier there. This is practically applicable to our day-to-day life in all our searchings. That all our searchings have been from one limited identity to another limited identity where we feel the new limited identity is going to give us happiness. But would it give us happiness? That goalpost, since it is also phalam ashashvatam, that goalpost of a new identity is also going to be pushed further, and it is not going to give us satisfaction. So this is a very meditatable thing. Though the verse indicates Andridhanan Namaduvendru, the Namaduvendru is referring to Aham Brahmasmi, is referring to the infinite, which the Guru Mukhena we receive, we meditate. That of course, moving from one finite to another finite identity is moving in sorrow, is moving in birth and death, and one starts getting the mumukshutva and going for the Guru Mukhena Upadesha, Manana and Nididhyasana. The Nididhyasana part is the Aham Brahmasmi meditation. That is a support, says Bhagavan. But then when we reduce it to our day-to-day living also, we find an interesting connection that Andridhanan Namaduvendru represents all our seeking. All the seeking that we encourage our children to do also. But should we just cut it off? Obviously not. Because that involves penance. The doing the right, gaining the right identity involves penance. That's why Bhagavan says, you will have to do that which Ishvara makes you feel as right. Only along with that, along with the right identity building, which is itself a penance, once you get into Atma Vicharam, once you get the information that the root of all the problems is the ego, and the solution to all problems is the removal of the ego, then go for it directly. Whenever you are reminded of Atma Vicharam, sit for it. What will happen? Even the other areas will start getting cleared up. Because Bhagavan says, along with Atma Vicharam, no other rigor is suggested. Because any other rigor would involve non-self. So would be a dilution. Atma Vicharam is so rigorous a practice that no other rigor, no other rule is suggested alongside that. We may say, along with that, I am doing this. But then, practically speaking, at the time of Atma Vichara, can you do something else? You cannot do something else. So it is a standalone sadhana, most powerful, most direct sadhana given by Bhagavan. It attacks the problem at its root and takes us to our natural happiness directly. That is why these three verses, 27, 28, 29, are referred to as the heart of this Ulladhanarpada work, which is called as Ramana Upanishad by Pandit Lakshman Sharma ji. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana, sir. Apara Satchit Sukhavarirashi Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami. Namo Ramana. Thank you all.